we're going to start out by making the body colour of the lemon. Do you remember that's all this part here? Because we've split this up into its constituent parts. Lemon consists of, forget the highlight at the moment, or the shadow. It consists of the body colour and the shadow colour. Okay, the foreground consists of the body colour and the shadow colour. The background consists of the body colour and the shadow colour. You split up your compositions into their relevant hues, and then you deal with them. Okay, so I'm going to deal with this lemon first by taking, oh, maybe I'll use a different brush. I'll use this one. So cadmium yellow pale hue, which you would think would be the lemon colour that you need, but it isn't. For a start, it's too bright and it's too cold at the moment. So I'm going to mix some permanent rose into it. Paintings are generally darker than you think. Maybe that's more like the lemon colour that I need. Let's make it even darker again, just by putting a little bit of permanent rose into it. Nice bright colour, it's very clean, and now it's very warm and dark enough so that when you put a highlight on it, you'll be able to see it. Can you see that? Maybe it's a bit too small, but anyway. So, and I want to get that white out of there. I don't want white in there anywhere near it because it'll turn it pale instead of bright. Right, so that's my body colour for the lemon. Now I'm going to grab some of that. Actually, I better make some more. I'm a devil for not making enough of a mix. And I'll be telling you lot to do it, and I'm not doing it myself. Okay, so I'm going to bring some of that off to the side, and I'm going to make the shadow version of that, because there's a shadow here, isn't there? So I'm going to get some ivory black, just a touch, and mix it in there. I've overdone it, but there's not, because there's no ambiguity in these paints that I'm using, the hues, which just means colour hue, it's easy to make another mix. Right, so I'd say that's about the shadow colour. But it's a bit too cold, so I'm going to add in a little bit of red into it. Don't worry about this business of warm and cold, all right? Because I'll be repeating it every time I do a demonstration, and you will get it. There are variables in painting, or at least paintings are made up of contrasts. They're made of contrasts in tone, and contrasts of colour, and in contrast of temperature. All right. So I'm going to put the shadow area in first, because in oil painting you're painting from dark to light. You may have heard that, so here we go. And this stage is called the blocking in stage. I do that whole area as a block. And now that bit's done, okay? So now I'm going to put in the body colour. I've wiped my brush down in the rag. I'm filling this. This is the blocking in. I've averaged out everything into one tone. Okay. Right, that's done. Now I'm going to move on to the next section, which we've identified and made into a kind of an area to treat on its own. Now this I will use the larger brush because it's quite a large area there. So it's obviously it's blue. It's a light blue. And what kind of blue is it? It's kind of a blue that's tending slightly towards green, I think. It's not a reddy blue. Okay, so let's grab some white. It's a pale colour as well, so there's white in it. White and blue, cobalt blue. Put a little bit of oil into it now. white and blue.
What's the oil doing, Kevin? It's just making it more easily.
Yes, you're lengthening the paint. That's a good question, see, because that's an expression that's worth knowing about lengthening the paint. All right, so for instance, let me get the brush. If I took some blue on the end of that brush, right, and I had a canvas in front of me rather than a nice sort of slick piece of glass, and I got my completely neat paint, a blob of it on the end of my brush, and I do that. Okay, that's as far as I get. If I put oil into it as a medium and I draw a line, it didn't work, but that's because this is glass. But you can paint a short line or you can paint a long line by putting oil into it, lengthening the paint. And now I've got a great big mark on my palette. Hang on. Get rid of that. It might get in the way of my real estate. Right. So where were we? Oh yes, I was making up the foreground colour. So I think the body colour is kind of as bright as that. Okay, all right, but I don't think it's as blue as that. I think it's slightly going towards green. So I'm going to put a little bit of yellow into it. I think that's more like what it is, because that light is it's not a tungsten light, but it's a very warm bulb. Okay, so it's casting a very yellow cast over that cloth. Okay, so something like that. And now I've got that. I want to take some of the off to one side and make the darker part of it, because there's a shadow part underneath that lemon. So I'm going to put a little bit of ivory black in. Got it down to the right tonal level, but I think it's bluer than that, so I'm going to put some blue into it. A bit more oil there, help it move around. Might even be darker again than that. Yes, maybe something like that, a bit more blue. There's my shadow. Okay. Right, so in oils we paint from dark to light, so I'm going to put that in first, the dark part. That's the same with acrylics, by the way. In that respect, acrylics and oils work the same way. You tend to paint from dark to light. So there's my shadow. Put that over there like that. Right. I don't see such a dark shadow anywhere else. That's good. So now we move on to the light part. So I'm just going to go in with that foreground colour, and here is oils. This is the kind of the essence of oils here, because now this colour is next to the lemon and you use it to sculpt in the shape. If you got your shape slightly wrong, I should actually exaggerate that actually. There, okay, I've come out. Too much shadow. Okay, right. I did that on purpose. All right, so let's come around here. So the shadow is an object too, so that needs to be shaped. So you're cutting away at it with the paint. That's why you need to paint with a decent amount of paint on your brush. Otherwise you won't be able to do it. If you're eking out small amounts of paint over a large area, you won't be able to do this, and you're missing out on something that's what's wonderful about oils. Okay, cutting that in. See, it's gone. You can still see it there a little bit, but it's no longer really a feature anymore. So there, and then you just fill in the rest. Okay, so I'm not going to go to the edges, and that's another thing about painting. If you start at the edges and do your painting working your way in from the edges, and I've seen people do it a lot, what might happen is you won't, you'll be called away before you get to the middle, and and then you just look as you've got a painting that started on the edges, and you know, the piece of fruit that you might not be able to get back to it for days, and the piece of fruit that you're painting has gone rotten or whatever, or been eaten, and then you can't finish your painting. But if you start in the middle, and every feature that you paint, you start from the center and work your way out to the edge, you can still have a good painting even if it doesn't reach the edge of your canvas. You see loads and loads of studies by major artistic figures over the centuries that are done like that aren't completed to the edge. They still look good. Okay, so now we've done that. We've done the blocking out of that part, and now we're just going to do the background. So the background, to me, it's a grey. Is it a bluey grey? Slightly. Is it warm or is it cool? It looks warm to me. It looks to me a bit slightly yellowish. There's red in there too, I can see. All right. But it's quite dark. It's showing the lemon up quite a bit. Right, so let's make a kind of a greyish colour. So there's got to be white in it. Otherwise it won't be grey. It'll just be a real dark. So I'm going to mix up some yellow, some red, some blue, I'm going to mix some white into it, but not too much. Get some oil in there as well because I want it to move around. So that's too greeny, so I'm going to put some more red into it, and more blue, more red. I'm mixing incrementally until I get the right kind of colour. But more red and more yellow, more red. Could be something like that. It's redder. Let me hold up my brush to it actually. It's too yellow. It needs to be redder. Hold up the brush to it again. Could be something like that, a bit more white perhaps. Now, I'm also going to add a little bit more black. Sorry, a bit of black rather than more black. There was no black into it. Now I have to ask myself, if that's going to be as warm as that, do I want it to be as warm as that? Because the lemon is warm, and if I want my painting to be contrasty, maybe I want that to be cooler. So I can put in more black and a bit more blue. Okay, and then there's some areas which are dark, very dark indeed, and I'm going to put more blue into them and more black off to the side. Same as I did with the other parts of the painting. Alright, so I'm going to apply that. Darks first, because we're painting dark to light. Dark across there, dark there, maybe coming in from the edge a little bit there. It's good to have the really darks in because they'll help the lemon to come forward a little bit. Maybe something like that. Now those shadows are in, I'm going to put in block in the rest of it. Add a bit more white into that, and that's it. Okay. Right, so here, once again, we're cutting the lemon. I find that's too yellow. It's competing with the lemon, so I don't want that. So a bit more blue. A bit more red. Okay. Sculpt that down, and I'm sculpting in straight lines, just the same way that I drew around the lemon. Across there like that. This is only a supporting feature. It's not, you don't want people to be sort of, or the viewer to be concentrating on your background. It's a supporting feature. Okay, so there we go. There. Needs to be dark enough to show that lemon off. Okay, so that in fact is our painting blocked out. I'm not going to go all the way to the edges. All right. So now that we've got it blocked in, that means we can start going through. We can start into our subtleties, and shades and little details.